So. Aber jetzt machen wir erstmal mit hier Higurashi weiter. So. Is Hojo-san staying home today too? Kururu-san, do you know anything? The teacher's voice wasn't critical, but Rika-chan hung her head, unable to answer, and I felt really bad for her. The teacher called Rika-chan up, and they had an exchange in hushed tones at the days. Internet fragen. Podium, okay.
Dais.
Dankeschön, Internet. At first, Rika-chan said that Satoko's fever had grown worse, but everyone in class knew it was a lie. Because every day, Rika-chan brought Satoko's bento with her. Satoko-chan, I wonder what happened. Don't ask me. I'm the one who wants to know most of all. It was already the third day since Satoko's first absence. Ever since then, I haven't felt good. Until just last Sunday, everything had been so much fun. I'd reached out to Satoko like a real older brother, and we spent that time quietly, but warm and comfortable. So why had it suddenly been flipped over? The more I thought about it, the more I thought that the world had taken a turn for the worse ever since Oishi arrived. Thinking on it now, maybe the strange apprehensions plaguing me the night before Oishi arrived had been a sign. Kuraudo-oshi, Oyashiro-sama's servant. Shit, that's impossible. They can't decide Satoko will be the curse victim this year just cause he showed up. Just what sort of slip up had I committed to cause those fun times to end so suddenly? Yes, it was the day before Oishi appeared. Gion, Mion and Reina had spoken of the curse surrounding Satoshi and his disappearance, and it was so sinister it gave me a bad premonition. Such a small thing was the slip-up that invited Oyashiro-sama's servant. It was absurd. I kept on groaning to myself that I would never accept it ever. I obviously wasn't the only one suppressing my feelings. Mion and Reina were too. Everyone in the class was doing it. Rika-chan knew something about Satoko's situation, but she wouldn't tell us. Rika-chan still held a calm attitude, like a cat basking in the sun. But she was being unbelievably stubborn about this whole thing. She didn't want to tell us, and that would change no matter how many times we asked her. Everyone understood that, so nobody questioned her. If Rika-chan won't talk, then we just have to wait. And she might not be talking because it's something not worth saying. There was no persuasive power in reassurance given with an anxious face like that. Mion was being taciturn. Okay. Taciturn. Das ist ein neues Wort, das ich nicht kenne. Schweigsam, wortkarg. Ah. Wunderbar. And just looked up at the sky with a somehow annoyed expression. I couldn't tell if she was unhappy that Rika-chan wouldn't talk about it with her own friends, or if she was concerned over Satoko's well-being. And what about me? My anxiety was suffocating me day after day. If someone else were looking at me, then maybe I'd look annoyed, like Mion did. Tap, tap. Someone tapped my shoulder. It was Tomita-kun and Okamura-kun. My bar is on. Do you have a minute? Wunderschön, danke, Dark Pashi, fürs Folgen. My brother, do you have a minute? Did your ball get stuck again? You guys have to get it yourselves this time. Don't rely on older kids for everything. Vers. Picobot kann keine Umlaute mehr. Picobot wird immer dümmer. Sehr, sehr toll. Ha. Naja, ich hoffe, derjenige, der den Chatbot geschrieben hat, ist bald mit dem neuen fertig. Mal schauen. I didn't feel like going along with them, so I was a little unsympathetic with my response. We heard a little interesting rumor. Rumor? Yeah, I just thought it might have something to do with that. Rumor. I'll cry. About Satoko, they hadn't said that, but it didn't seem unrelated. They didn't want to talk in the classroom, so they pulled me behind the school building, lending further credence to that thought. The back of the school was damp and humid like always. The students didn't really come here because they wanted to. It might, however, have been the ideal location for trading rumors away from prying eyes. Tomita-kun, Okamura-kun. These rumors, they're about why Satoko is absent, right? We don't know if it has something to do with it, though, or maybe. What on earth happened to Satoko? Is she sick? Or could she be, like, really sick or injured or something? No, actually, it's the opposite. I heard my grandma saying that she came to buy tofu at our shop yesterday. Oh, Tomita's family runs a tofu shop, added Okamura-kun. She went shopping to buy some tofu. My voice sounds so stupefied, even I can tell. It was understandable. I was worried about what grave illness or injury she had when the person herself had been out and about shopping for tofu. So, how was she? Did she look okay? Was she wearing a mask like she was getting better? Or was she using crutches? Or did she have bandages on her? No, there want. Is this normal? Is this English? Nein, die haben einfach nur ein S vergessen. No, there wasn't really any signs of sickness or injuries on her, but beziehungsweise wasn't wird eigentlich auch nicht passen, wenn dann weren't. Naja. I should have felt relief that it wasn't an illness or an injury. But my anxiety wasn't going away, because Tomita-kun and Okamura-kun's expressions weren't looking any better. She apparently came to buy one piece of soft tofu, but my grandpa said it was strange. Strange? Why? What's wrong with buying soft tofu? Irritated by how roundabout they were being, I had to desperately fight that irritation from creeping into my voice. Well, Hojo and Furuda live by themselves, and they don't have that much money, right? So they only ever buy the cheaper, firmer kind of tofu. They've never bought the soft stuff. It's the most expensive thing there. Soft or hard, they're both tofu, right? Maybe she just wanted to eat some great tofu or something. Well, maybe, but I knew how transparent I sounded right then. This wasn't anything trivial. It was some kind of important clue. Not the cheap firm tofu, but the expensive soft kind. Shopping, not in the evening after school, but in the middle of the day. I couldn't figure out what those things meant. As I thought hard about it, Okamura-kun took his turn to speak. Me next. This is just a rumor, but apparently he's back. He? Who? Who's back? Hojo's uncle. Satoko's uncle. Right, I think Coach told me about him. Their aunt and uncle had taken them in after Satoko and Satoshi lost their parents in the accident. Hojo's uncle. They say he skipped town last year, scared of Oyashiro-sama's curse. He's really scary and violent, like a gang member. Everything Coach told... Ich kann heute nicht sprechen. Everything Coach told me came back in bits and pieces. Right. The mean aunt and uncle who had tormented them all the time. I think he said that after their aunt was beaten to death by the deviant, he ran away to his lover's house in Okinomiya in fear of the curse. Why would she be staying home from school and shopping for soft tofu in the middle of the day just because her uncle came back? My underclassmen clammed up and looked downwards. There must have been some big hint buried in there. Even if I didn't understand, if I told Mion or Reina about it, maybe they'd know something. Oh, my bad, you two. You were nice enough to talk about it, and I started hammering you with questions. It's okay. Now we know that she hasn't been in bed this whole time, gravely ill. That's worth something, right? Blah. That might be true, but it still won't. It won't make the clouds over my head fade away. My mind fade away. Mein Gott. Marabara-san, over there! Okamura-kun cried wildly, pointing over my shoulders behind me. Startled, I turned around, and way on the other side of the schoolyard, near the school gate, I saw a figure trudging forth. Ah! It's Hojo! I burst into a run faster than I could speak, so that as quickly as possible I could see with my own eyes that she was okay. Satoko! Satoko seemed taken aback by me shouting and running over to her. What is it, Keiichi-san? You surprised me with all the yelling and running. Stupid, enough about me already. 3 days, what happened, Satoko? I was so worried. What a worry watch. It was only 3 days. You're such a very word, Keiichi-san. From listening to her, she seemed like the normal Satoko, but I could tell she was clearly acting strangely. Her smile was somehow forlorn, and her complexion was bad for some reason. Hojo. Were you alright? Were you sick or something? Tomita-kun and Okamura-kun both expressed their concerns. Just what happened anyway? 3 days. Do you know how worried I was? Oh, I do so apologize. I was just giving the house a good cleaning. We haven't used it for a rather long time, so everything was covered in dust. Huh? Satoko, what are you talking about? Why would you have to stay home from school to clean the house? Satoko didn't answer me. Instead, she passed by me and headed for the entrance. Gosh, it is nearly about lunchtime, is it not? I'm just starving. It was certainly lunch break. I couldn't force her to stop after she told me she wanted lunch since she was so hungry. Endweg runterladen session. Well, whatever. Riki-chan's been bringing your lunch for 3 days now. You look like you can eat it today. Let's just go to the classroom and put everyone's minds at ease. You're right. I suppose I may have caused everyone to worry. Oh, ho, ho. It sure is tough being popular. I put a hand on Satoko's shoulder and we ran to the classroom together. Up close, I was able to verify that Satoko looked somehow weak. All this anxiety was supposed to go away when I saw her again. That's what I had thought. But now I actually started to have quite different fears. What the heck happened, Satoko? Everyone in the class, of course, reacted in the same exact way I had. We're worried about you. I'm glad to see you well. What were you doing for 3 days? Our classmates showered her in questions. I truly do apologize for causing a fuss. Oh, 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 oh. As she cackled, she chowed down on the bento Rika-chan had made for her. Those in the teacher's lounge must have been informed of Satoko's arrival, because our teacher sprinted into the classroom, breathing wrecked. Aochu-san! Oh, sensei. I'm sorry for worrying you these 3 days. Oh, ho, ho. As you can see, I am fit as a fiddle. Why, I was very worried about you. When you are done eating, come right to the teacher's lounge. I have a lot to talk to you about. I must be in for a good scolding for those 3 days I cut class. Oh, ho, ho. Satoko laughed sheepishly while she scratched her head, and the rest of the class burst out into laughter. The teacher was acting angry, but she breathed a sigh of relief at seeing Satoko healthy and smiling as she ate her lunch with the class surrounding her. What a relief, right, Reina? Huh? Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm glad she's okay. I looked at Reina and knew. She had a sense that something about Satoko was off too. I looked to see Mion detached from the clamor as well, with a somewhat grim expression. But Rika-chan, on the other hand, was smiling from ear to ear. She spread out the bento boxes one by one as Satoko finished them. Finally, Satoko was satisfied, and after enjoying a thorough conversation with her classmates, remembered that she'd been called to the teacher's lounge. It's such a pain, but I think she'll be angrier if I don't go. I'll go with you. Satoko rises from her seat and Rika-chan runs over to her. I do apologize, Keiichi-san. I'll be right back after getting scolded. Right. I mean, I could go with you too. We're all comrades in getting scolded in the teacher's lounge, ever since the curry incident, right? That won't be necessary. Keiichi should mind the place while we're away. Rika-chan's words were gentle, but the firm rejection was clear in her eyes. The two of them exited into the hallway, walking shoulder to shoulder. After seeing them off, the class breathed a collective sigh of relief, broke apart and went back to the usual lunch break banter. We, however, couldn't go back to how we usually were. Not I, not Mion, and of course not Reina. They stared at the classroom exit Satoko and Rika-chan had left through, their expressions a little distant and grim. We're all friends, isn't that right? I blurted out something strange, so Mion and Reina turned around with dubious expressions. I won't keep anything from my friends, so I'll tell you what I just heard a little while ago. I told them the stories I heard from Tomita-kun and Okamura-kun earlier about the tofu shop and how Satoko's uncle had apparently come back. All at once, without letting them speak. And that's all I know. So, if either of you knows anything, please say so. I've said everything I can. I ended my sentence firmly and looked into Mion and Reina's eyes in turn. Reina stared back at me. Her eyes didn't falter. Without even opening her mouth, I could tell she wasn't hiding anything. Then our gazes turned to Mion. It's not like I was trying to keep it a secret or anything. Mion couldn't seem to endure our silent stares and began to talk timidly as if she was guilty of something. It's just, now that you've said something, Kei-chan, I guess I have to talk about it. Mi-chan, you know something? Well, I mean, I knew from the first day that Satoko's uncle had come home. That he just randomly showed up in Hinamizawa last Sunday. Why didn't you tell us that? I'm sorry. My angry shout caused Mion to flinch away, look down and hang her head uncomfortably. Keiichi-kun, it's nothing to get angry about. You're scaring me, Chan. Oh, sorry, I shouted at you. I lowered my head in apology. Mion accepted it, collected herself, and continued. According to her, her uncle's relationship with his lover, whom he had been with in Okinomiya, had collapsed. Without Hinamizawa, Jetzt lese ich schon das Wort am Ende vom Satz. Bevor der Satz überhaupt zu Ende ist. Mein Gott. Without anywhere to go, he went back home to Hinamizawa. And on that Sunday, the day of the barbecue, her uncle ran into Satoko and brought her back to the house. Why? Did he bring her with him? Because he's good for nothing parasite. He can't even cook by himself, much less do any cleaning. But that's... He brought Satoko-chan back to have her cook and clean. I remember that she said she'd been cleaning the house when I met her back at the school gate. A moment later, the pieces fell into place, into the jigsaw puzzle of unease. And as for what the puzzle depicted when I saw it from afar, I could see the answer clearly. Satoko was locked up at home and tormented into doing the housework. Those are rumors. If you knew that, why didn't you speak up? I nearly yelled at Mion, but hastily stopped myself. Mi-chan, is that true? I haven't seen it myself, so I don't know if it's true or not. Mion looked down again, and staring at the floor grew quiet. Just like last year, like when they lived with their mean uncle and his wife. But this uncle is completely helpless when it comes to housework, right? If Satoko's that important, then there wouldn't be any reason to torment her, would there? Keiichi-kun, I don't know what grounds you have for saying that, but you shouldn't be so irresponsible. Reina clearly and directly got mad at me. You don't know much about this, so don't talk as though you do. Yes, that's clearly what she meant. Fine, then do you know something, Reina? I don't know anything either. I didn't know her uncle had taken her to the house until hearing it just now. But the situation is different from a year ago. The situation is different. What does that mean? Satoshi-kun isn't here. Satoshi really cared about his little sister. He always stuck up for her. He was her shield so that she would be affected just a little less by their mean aunt and uncle's fighting. The mean uncle and Satoko-chan are the only ones living there now. Can you imagine how stifling that must be, Keiichi-kun? He only even came back because his broke up with the woman he was staying with. Do you think a person who came back for such an unpleasant reason would be able to treat Satoko-chan kindly? She was right. It wasn't easy for me to imagine Satoko not being tormented. Sorry. Oh, no, I'm sorry too. I sounded like I was interrogating you, didn't I? Aww. An awkward atmosphere floated among us. The three of us remained silent and just stared at the floor. Ding dong. Finally, we heard the principal's bell ringing. The teacher came back with Satoko and Rika-chan at her side. Alright, we're starting afternoon class. Class president, please. Everybody stand up. I'm sorry. How rude of me. I couldn't read anything from Satoko's vaguely sheepish expression. But given the clouded look Rika-chan was wearing behind her, it was tough to laugh off the disquieting story I'd heard from Mion. Was das für? Nein. Okay. Alright. First time in a while everyone's been here. Let's all have a roaring good time with the whole club. Yeah, perfect. Indeed, in times like these, the best thing to do was obviously get rowdy and scheme against one another in a club activity. Ehehehe, just what I was waiting for. Hey Satoko-chan, let's play. There was that game you liked, wasn't there? What was it again? It doesn't matter which. Tell me. Tell me. Mion laughed happily, took a bunch of games out of the club locker and lined them up on the desks. I think that was the first time Mion's ever let someone else decide on a game for her. I could tell she was being especially considerate to Satoko. Thinking that whatever her circumstances, if we could just enjoy our time together as a group, that might be some comfort, some diversion. Satoko seemed to understand her feelings too, and smiled vaguely, though pleased, but her head slowly moved from side to side. I'm very grateful, but your feelings are enough. There are many things I need to do, so even Rika-chan hung her head in remorse. Hey, wow, seriously? All the club members are here for once and we're not playing anything. Desertion in the face of the enemy. What was the punishment game for it? What part of the club constitution was that in? Stop it, Mi-chan. Can't force her to play with us. Hey, this old man isn't trying to force her or anything. I just thought it would be more fun for sure if we did something exciting. Really, I'm happy you feel that way. Don't worry, next we meet, you'll see. I'll get you all caught in a gigantic trap. Satoko, while insulting us, still said she couldn't participate in the club today and apologized. She quickly put her things into her bag and pattered out into the hallway, disappearing. It all happened in the blink of an eye. Satoko. Rika-chan stared lonesomely as a friend hurried home, unable to be part of club activities. Silence filled the classroom. Both the cheerful voices of our classmates in the schoolyard and the voices of the cicadas sounded like they were coming from some faraway world. This is boring. The silence was broken by Mion's bitterness as she began putting the games on the desk back into the locker. My god. Everyone just stared absently at Satoko's seat, now empty. Rika-chan, maybe you could tell us about it now. Reina made as gentle a smile as she possibly could and spoke softly to Rika-chan. Even without hearing it from her, we pretty much knew the situation at this point. Satoko's uncle had broken up with his lover and come back home to Hinamizawa. Er fehlt entweder and had come back oder and came back. Come back macht keinen Sinn. And he had taken Satoko back home and forced her to do all the household work. And that all had to be pretty rough on her. Thinking this was common knowledge to everyone, I skipped to the important part. Is it really bad? Maybe Mion and Reina wanted to ask the same question. Nobody spoke. We all just stared, waiting for Rika-chan's reply. Rika-chan still didn't answer us. We were hoping for her to say no, but her silence was a bad enough sign. Last year, was it? It was like this when both her uncle and his wife were here, right? Yeah. At the time, they were mostly just being caught between their aunt and uncle fighting. One of the ways we helped out was with the club, but reducing her time at home as much as we could, but He's making her do the chores now, so she can't stay at school either. Shit. Satoko's not a slave. Who do you think you are, ignoring our own inability to live properly and basically putting Satoko under house arrest? When you think about it, isn't this really strange? We'd need a lot of circumstantial evidence, but isn't this abuse? Can't we notify the police or something? You're right. If we had evidence she was being abused, I think we could tell the police. And can't we talk to the region's welfare people about this? Reina and I kept saying, police, police, as though it were nothing, but Mion's response sounded... But Reina and I kept saying, police, police, as though it were nothing. But Mion's response sounded like she thought we were a little naive. It's easy for you to say that. Have you thought about the risks of actually getting proof? What do you mean, risks? I think it was 2 winters ago. We reported it to the Child Consultation Center. We told them there was abuse happening and to do something right away. Ah, you did? What happened? A person came as soon as we called. She interviewed Satoko and Satoshi about what was going on, and then their uncle and his wife too. I can understand asking Satoko and Satoshi, but wouldn't it be not so good to talk to the aunt and uncle? They said they'd based their judgment on what they heard from both sides. Great of them, wasn't it? So, what did they decide to do? Wait and see. What do you mean, wait and see? The uncle really studied up on this stuff. By law, you can't call it abuse unless someone admits to assault or child neglect. They poked and prodded Satoko and Satoshi a lot, but it never left any real marks on them. They were pretty much eating 3 meals a day and had beds. And there weren't any recordings or something like that to prove they'd said or done anything to cause them psychological trauma. None of the villagers had ever actually seen them being violent either. No matter how mean you are, you wouldn't act so violent in front of other people. Nobody would. Then, what happened? The welfare officer apparently went to visit on the same day each week for a while. The aunt and uncle knew they were being watched, though, and didn't torment them in any way that would stand out. Of course, that wasn't the end of it. You mean they ramped up how malicious they were being? Mion sighed and nodded. Their aunt was really damn stubborn. She's one of the most spiteful people I've ever known. Apparently, she was doing some pretty disgusting things. Satoko was like a doll that did nothing but breathe by the end of it. So what? From that conclusion, does that mean they never should have contacted child welfare in the first place? Understand? Without proof of abuse so clear anyone could see it, there's nothing we can do. In fact, it might even make the situation worse. We messed up pretty bad. After hearing that even public organizations, the one thing they thought was dependable, couldn't do anything, everyone hung their heads. In other words, until we have clear evidence of abuse, we shouldn't notify anyone. Well, I mean, basically, yeah. I considered Satoko's current situation. She was brought back to her house. It was a little difficult to call that abuse. She was being tormented and forced to do the chores. How she was being tormented would be the key, but without concrete evidence, it would be difficult to prove. If she had some kind of external injury, that would work. But as far as we could tell from today, she had nothing like that. And being forced to do the chores, that was a bit weak too. There had to be better evidence that she was without a doubt being abused. Ah, I know. Her uncle had ignored Satoko's existence for a whole year and went to live with his lover in town. Didn't that fall under one of the definitions of abuse that Mion had mentioned, child neglect? Yeah, it's a perfect case of child neglect. What about that, Mi-chan? If her uncle weren't here now, it would be recognized as child neglect. But he's living with her at the moment, isn't he? They were apart before, but if he said something like he had a change of heart and decided to live with her, then they might just wait and see again. Once we reported it, we would need to be absolute sure they'd interpret it as abused. Maybe we needed far more concrete evidence, lest we repeat last year's mistake. It's sad. This means we need to sit quietly and wait for him to be violent towards Satoko-chan and leave a mark, don't we? The only plan I could think of was, in the end, just watching and waiting. It left me in shock when I realized that it would be the same policy as that of the officials who had made the situation worse. As Mion said, reporting it to a public agency would be a gamble. If we are going to pick a fight, it would have to be one we couldn't afford to lose. If we were gambling without enough money, without enough evidence, our defeat would be assured. If we took the time to amass enough money that we could be there, to amass enough money that we could be sure of victory, then that would mean pretending we didn't see Satoko's plight for a considerable amount of time. Sorry for bringing this up now, but how is Rika-chan able to live by herself? Rika-chan had lost her parents, if I recalled correctly. From what I heard, she had no relatives either. She was forced to live on her own as a result, but her life was unfettered, free of restriction. If she could somehow grant that freedom to Satoko too. I mean, Rika-chan, you're living without any parents, right? Don't kids with no guardians have to go to orphanages and stuff? Keiichi-kun, that's cruel. I'm not saying it's to be mean. I only asked because I thought maybe there would be a hint to saving Satoko. Rika-chan, sorry if I offended you. Rika-chan shook her head, not particularly disturbed. Well, you see, it's because I'm considered the mayor's daughter. Let me explain. The mayor, old man Kimiyoshi, is Rika-chan's guardian. He got official permission from the governor of the prefecture. Ha, so you're adopted. No, not adopted. You can be someone's guardian without being in the same family. Oh, I get it. Rika-chan lives by herself, but by law she's considered to live with the mayor, right? Yeah, basically. That's how Rika-chan avoids being sent to an orphanage. Actually, it would be child and family services, not an orphanage. Meep. I don't understand the hard things, but anyway, she's right. Interesting you should say that, Mion. You can be someone's guardian even if they're in another family. Then shouldn't we have the mayor or someone else become Satoko's guardian if only on paper? Then she'd be in the same position as Rika-chan. And she could go back to her old life. Too bad it won't work. I mean, her uncle is supposedly her guardian? Wait a minute. You lost me there. What's a guardian exactly anyway? In legal terms, a guardian and a parent weren't necessarily synonyms. So whoever was actually looking after her at home would be considered her guardian. Then her uncle isn't her guardian. He left Satoko by herself for so long. But if he insists he's her guardian, then that's it. It's been a few days since Satoko was taken back to her house. Her uncle's been paying for her meals since then, right? He is sort of looking after her, so he'd probably insist. And even though he abandoned her for a year, he'd already looked after her for the whole year before that. But the mayor doesn't have that kind of history. So then, if both the mean uncle and the mayor requested guardianship at the same time, the uncle would make more sense. No, but he'd have a better chance. The term guardian refers to the person actually caring for her, right? The uncle actually has a bed and food for her, but the mayor would just have his name. It wouldn't even be a contest. Then shouldn't the mayor just start caring for her for real? He'd be her guardian in name and reality if he did. We just need to shelter Satoko. That might lead to her uncle being desperate to take her back, but we'll stubbornly refuse him. It won't be that easy. Satoko is a growing girl, you know. It's not like giving someone a cat. You're asking him to care for a real person. Then Coach. What about Coach? Coach is, I don't know, he's got a lot of money, right? He even said it himself. Even if he's not her real father, Coach could become her guardian. He would be great at taking care of her. Stop that. Stop thinking of Satoko like a pet. All you're doing is talking about pushing her onto someone else. You need to think more seriously about how much responsibility it is to care for another human being. Did you ask him? Did you get an actual promise from him that he'd take Satoko under his care? No, I didn't. But Coach would definitely say yes. Ha, well, fine. Even considering the 0% probability of Coach saying it was okay, then what? It still wouldn't work. He couldn't become a guardian all by himself. Nah, that's right. Coach, didn't he say it himself? He was alone, so he couldn't do it. Shit. What the hell? Why is being single such a disadvantage in this society? Then all you could do is marry into a wealthy family, couldn't you? Is there anyone that wealthy in Hinamizawa? I'm not sure. See, it's not simple. It's hard to adopt someone, and you can't go into it thinking you'll push Satoko onto someone else just for a little while. You're being naive, Kei-chan. Shit, damn it, what the hell? I'm desperately thinking of how to save Satoko, and all you're saying is no. Don't you care about Satoko at all? I even worried about your friend one bit. What do you have to say for yourself? I didn't mean that, but it just won't be that easy, and it's not that difficult a problem. We just need to have some rich people look after Satoko for a while, that's all. Right, what about your family, Mion? You always brag about great it is being one of the 3 families of or whatever, don't you? From what you said, you just live in a gigantic house. My house? No, that won't happen. My grandma would never allow it. Then what about your relatives in Okinomiya? From what I heard, they're living in luxury themselves. There's plenty of shops your relatives manage in town too. Your family are basically millionaires, aren't they? No, that won't work. Going to Okinomiya is even more out of the question. My father, he'd never let it happen, ever. Hey. Normally you act like someone high and mighty, big wig, and now you're being all spineless. What the hell? I'm just going to sit by and watch Satoko suffer. No, I don't, but I mean, I want to help her as much as you. But that's a different story. How is it a different story? How can you be so cold-hearted? Your friend is in trouble. What are you if you don't rescue her? You're our president, our club president. Save her. Save her from this crisis. If you don't save her right now, you're not her friend. You're not even human. I don't know if you have any humanity left in you. Are you listening to me, Mion? Mein Gott. My emotions all exploded out of me, and I didn't even give her a chance to say anything in response. I just wanted to make Mion agree with me, even if I had to force her. If she did, Satoko's problems would be solved. If pushing her would solve the issue, then I'd push her as much as I needed to. Why aren't you saying anything anymore? I'm asking you, asshole. Well, say something, Mion Sonosaki. Me? No. Mion, looking down with a grim face, began sobbing. Her hands were clenched into trembling fists, and she rubbed her eyes to wipe away the tears. What does that actually mean? This isn't the time to cry. We're in the gambling room now, and we have to do something to save Satoko. And as I thought that, Reina spoke, her voice cold and incredibly calm. Keiichi-kun, if Mi-chan's family won't work, then what if we look for another wealthy family? I know someone in Hinamizawa who lives in a nice, big house. Who's that? Oh, come on. You've got a splendid family and you're leaving it out of things. My family? My family is... Your friends, right? Save her, Keiichi-kun. Mi-chan is cold-hearted after all. Since you are so considerate towards friends, you should lead by example. Just the 3 of you are living in that huge house, right? Then you've probably got plenty of spare rooms. You should just give a few of the empty ones to Satoko-chan, and then her worries would be all over. Would all be over. Would all be over, yeah. What's this? We're done already? That was pretty quick. Okay, great. Congratulations on solving the problem. Then are we done for today? I'm going home. Hooray, hooray. Maybe I'll go treasure hunting. I haven't done that in a while. I was so worried about Satoko-chan until now that I didn't feel like going to play at all. I wonder what I'll find today. Aww. Say something, will you? Why am I the only one talking? Say something, you bastard. Are you listening, Keiji Maebara? Even the cicadas seemed to cower in fear. Reina, her shoulders bobbing up and down, and me, who had forgotten to breathe. Mion, whose face had gone completely pale, and Rika-chan, who was keeping silent as if nothing had happened. The atmosphere in the classroom grew tight and stiff, and it petrified us where we stood. Rattle. The sound of the chair as Reina sat back down after having stood up finally allowed everyone present to take a break. Break oder Breath? Breath. Mein Gott, sollte langsam fertig sein. Ich kann heute nicht anscheinend lesen. Wie eigentlich fast jeden Tag. Reina had shown me just how much I'd hurt Mion. Reina, scary. After a few moments, Rika-chan cut into the frozen air. Yeah, I'm sorry, Rika-chan. Mi-chan, I'm sorry to you too. I don't have to apologize to you, do I, Keiichi-kun? Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for being so unreasonable. Were you saying all that to me before? You said it while glaring at Mi-chan, so I totally thought you were talking to her. Reina had such strength that you wouldn't have imagined it normally. All I did was bout terrible things as a wave of violent fury passed over me. I couldn't contend with her. Mion, I'm sorry. I lost my cool. Come to think of it, I didn't understand what had gotten me that riled up. I thought of myself as Satoko's Nini, so I only had good intentions, that I'd think about it a little harder than everyone else, and yet... it's okay. You were worrying with everything you had, but as I was saying, was that nothing would work. But all I was saying, so I'm sorry. I did something wrong too. Mion rubbed away the tears at the corners of her eyes with her fists and apologized as well. We bowed our head to each other and looked down without glancing at the other. Someone, I don't know who, have a sigh. Satoko being tormented had been known about since last year. How had the tragedy back then saved Satoko? How had they brought it to an end? Right. In the end, nobody could do anything. All they could do was bear it patiently and wait for those agonizing days to end. That's right. The one who brought an end to those terrible days was some crazy drug addict nobody knew. On the night of Watanagashi last year, their mean aunt had been beaten to death. But it hadn't been done to save Satoko or Satoshi. Right. It really was just a coincidence. Satoko's friends, who needed to do something for her most of all, could do nothing. The incident may have been a tragic one, but from Satoko's viewpoint, it was nothing less than a miracle. Yes, a miracle. A miracle one could only wait for. Is waiting all we can do? Not for evidence of abuse, not for something that minor. Huh? Wait, for what? A miracle. No one made fun of me for using such a crazy word. We couldn't come up with any solutions, so it was the only thing we could do. Oh yeah, powerless. That one word Mion dropped was the finishing blow. It was hot. My body was sticky with sweat. Worst month, June. Puh. Also heute ging's mal länger als sonst. Stream hängt. Ich glaube nur bei Crime. Also von meiner Seite aus soll es eigentlich problemlos funktionieren alles. Ah, okay. Also anscheinend wird's ab Kapitel 6 dann werden die Hälften immer ein bisschen länger als sonst. Ein paar Minuten hinlaufen. Was? Das ist doof. Merkwürdig.